Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this session. For the ones who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Moreno. I am based in El Salvador. I am a woman who is finding purpose in life, but I'm also a senior analyst here at Viva. Let me start by saying that, as we know, women are shining in all sorts of areas, but we know that we still have a long way to go. Viva focuses on increasing the participation of women in the workspace, providing meaningful career opportunities to women in emerging economies within Latin America. So the mission of our organization has made it possible to organize this amazing activity. This particular session is one around a very important topic that's very close to my heart, and I'm sure that it will be to all of yours. So today, in a celebration of Women's Month, the topic we'll discuss is finding our allies. So I'm really honored to introduce you to inspirational leaders from the Viva team, women who are working hard, dreaming big, and growing into the women they want to be. So let me welcome our first panelist. Her name is Sara Cautaich. She was born and raised in Venezuela with a Syrian family. She has a bachelor's degree in law, and she's a strong advocate for gender equality and women's rights. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you, Steph. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Our second panelist is Paula Espinosa. Born and raised in Quito, Ecuador, obtained a BA in Women and Gender Studies, as well as lots of experience in the nonprofit realm, working with women and LGBTQ plus folks. Welcome, Paula.
Thanks, Steph. Happy to be here.
Great. Third panelist is Maria Luz Ceballos. Born and raised in Quito, Ecuador, she holds a bachelor's degree in arts. As a mother and a wife, she's deeply committed to promoting equal opportunities and advocate of financial independence for women. Welcome, Maria Luz.
Thank you, Steph. Hi, everyone.
And last but not least, Sofia Gonzalez. Sofia is a Colombian-American based in Medellin, Colombia. Her passion for feminism and theater led to her founding a feminist performing arts nonprofit in 2016. Wow. Welcome, Sofia.
Thank you, Steph. Hi, everybody.
Perfect. So let's kick it off. I have a few questions to the panel. Afterwards, I'm going to throw in a question to the audience so that you can all participate, and then we'll give it a closure. Okay. So I want to kick it off with an open question, and this is open to the panel. The first question is, how do you empower yourself and the women around you? Who wants to take this one? Yes, Maria Luz.
Yes, for me, I think the most important thing for women to be empowered is to have financial independence. I believe it's crucial for women's empowerment to have this power of having your own independence. And I'm always encouraging other women, in particular women who are mothers, because this is a stage in your life when it's difficult because you have small children. But I think it's so important to be able to provide for yourself and your family on your own.
Totally agree. And I think that also has to do with how culturally how women are perceived, that women cannot go out to work or make money. But that's something that I feel like we're deconstructing and we're breaking barriers. Thank you for sharing. Yes, Sara.
I think in terms of empowerment, one key thing is empathy, because we've been taught to be so hard on ourselves, so critical, so judgmental, that starting with empathy for yourself, with yourself, being nice to yourself, also allows you to be empathetic towards other people, other women, and not be the one sitting there just like judging, criticizing other women's realities, but instead being empathetic, listening, understanding, and therefore empowering. So empathy is a big thing for me.
And Sarah, talking about empathy, how is it that you developed the skill? Do you mind sharing like maybe some techniques, or have you read books around this topic? Like, how can we, for all women here, how can we learn to be more empathetic?
So in terms of books, that's a good question because I love books. I think of just every woman, every person in this panel to read The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. You will learn to be so gentle with yourself and understand your vulnerabilities, understand how your called flaws can be your strengths. So on books, that's one. And how does that feel? I think understanding beliefs that are no longer mine. Like I should look this way, I should do this, I should be, I don't know, say at home mom exclusively because that's what good women do. So just like challenging those beliefs and just hearing my intuition and knowing what feels best for me. That's how I can be empathetic with myself and with other people. I think that also aligns with the same vibe.
Totally agree. Thank you. And afterwards, I think that we can also share the books and articles that have been mentioned here so that we can have it in a list and making sure that we're going to read them. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, ladies. The next question I have is one around, especially that here, I feel like the ones who are working with Viva I talk from a place of privilege, because here our voices are heard, and we do so many activities for women empowerment. But I want to ask this question, especially for the ones who are not working at Viva or in a place where your voices are not heard. What are the ways? Let's think of ways where men can be good allies. So what do we need to do from our place to engage and inspire male advocates? Paula. Oh, yes, Sophia, go ahead.
I think one of the most important things is listening. So I think the times when I have been in a position where I feel like I have male allies in the workplace, it's been because I voiced something and they listened and they believed me when I said, this is my experience, or this is how you can support me, or how you can improve as a leader. So I think in all contexts, really listening to each other, and it goes back to what Sara said about being empathetic. Listening to each other and not just like sitting while someone else is talking.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. Yes, Maria Luz.
For me personally, I think that sharing our responsibilities with men, especially in your family, for example, with your partner or your husband, it has been very important to make him an ally, because I think sometimes we need to challenge our own role in society and break a few things. Women take in so much of the household work. I think there's a study from the UN that says that women take as much as 3 times the domestic work as men. So I think it's so important for them to also understand the mental load and the work it implies to be able to do all of these things. And I think that will make them our allies. So I think that's really, really important. And I think it applies to the context of work as well, because sometimes we take some responsibilities that are more of a women thing that a men things. For example, in work, if you have to organize a birthday party, for example, they're usually the women who do this. So I think it's important to share this kind of responsibility and make it a more inclusive also for the work that we don't really pay or that we don't really see. And yes, I think in my experience, that's been a great thing.
And before I go to you, Paula, I'm interested in that, especially if we share our lives with a male partner. Is how do you break that barrier? Do you open a conversation, or do you prepare yourself and say, historically we've suffered for this, and that, and please understand where I'm coming from. So like, help me here. So how do you open that conversation?
I think it's just, what I do is talk about it like this is what society usually expects from women. For example, clean your house or
Yeah.
wash the dishes, but it's a shared responsibility because everybody is eating and everybody's, occupying this space. So sometimes we do it because it's easier, but we shouldn't do that. I think it's kind of a way of forcing to share the responsibility and the work, even if it's not easy sometimes. So I think it depends on us as well, as
Yeah.
women, to be able to share it.
Thank you. And I see a lot of, clapping. And yes, I'm going to clap on this one because it is so important to voice this out and tell how you feel and why is it that you think it's important. So thank you for sharing. Yes, Paula.
Thanks, Steph. I think my image is frozen right now. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I think going off of like what Maria Luz said, there's a lot of like unpaid labor that women do. But when we take into consideration and we think about how men can become better allies, we need to think about, first of all, there's a lot of unconscious biases that have been normalized that men may not be aware of. So challenging them to challenge those normalized ideas, like why do they take place to begin with? Many men, it's not that they don't want to support, it's just like they've normalized it. So making that clear, and then also understanding from our perspective, what does an ally mean? So what does that mean? Like someone who acknowledges that there are power dynamics in place, someone who's willing to support underrepresented groups and is willing to intervene through like when something unjust happens. So I would say all of those things. And yeah, that's basically what I have.
Love it. Thank you so much. And I totally agree. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I see a comment, I could not be nodding any harder. And I'm like, yes, you're right. So thank you so much for that. Yes, Sophia.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what Paula said, like not only like men who are our allies, like unlearning these unconscious biases, but also challenging other men. Because sometimes, especially in the workplace, men who haven't gone through this work before sort of like unlearn things from society. They need to hear it from a man, which, to be quite frank, sucks, but is the reality. And I think it's really important that, being an ally, that's what being an ally means. It means taking action and backing up your words with actions. So if you're really an ally, then challenge the men in your life when they say something or do something that you think is not okay.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. I do have, the next question I have is something that it made me think a lot. If we think on how we treat each other with other women, sometimes that can be disappointing. Not at Viva. At Viva, I've learned so much, but I want to learn from you guys also. If you could share, what's your most effective way to become an ally to other women, not only in the workspace, but also like around your family, friends, society. So what are some of the most effective ways to accomplish that? And let me see who raised the first. Yeah, Sara.
I think ego plays a big part on that, because it's very easy for us to, when we see women doing something different, something we might not agree on, we fall into jealousy, we fall into envy, and we like to believe sometimes that we're better than other women. And so all of these things align us in a path, even when we're doing things that are empowering. When we see women not doing that, we fall into the line of we're not empowering, we're not being allies to other women, because we're just doing the same thing. We're criticizing and we're judging. Like, say, people or women or folks who stay in the workforce, whether they're mothers or not. It's very easy for us to say, hey, like, this person just decided to stay home and just be a stay-at-home mom and stuff like that. So it's very easy to stay in a comfortable place that ego gives us, to just like judge and criticize. Whereas sometimes we have to also ask ourselves that question, like, am I being a good ally? Am I being good towards other women? We can say here, like in this space, like Viva gives us, like, yeah, I'm a wonderful ally and I work for this company and this organization. But outside of this, are we truly being the best allies we can be? So that's a question to ask ourselves and evaluate our attitudes and overall our intentions.
I think the key words is the intention. Thank you. That was very powerful. Okay, let's hear thoughts from Paula.
Thanks, Steph. I agree with what Sara said. And like, most importantly, I would say that in a patriarchal society, we're all part of it. Both men, women, whoever, exists is affected by it. So, oh, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. So women are pushed against each other due to a patriarchal society. So understanding why that's coming from, and surrounding yourself with women who are willing to uplift each other. And then I would say something that I use to motivate other women and empower other women and myself is using intersectional feminism. So what that means is understanding that while I may not face the same types of oppression as other women, I can be there to support and intervene. So let's say we all as women, we experience oppression because of our gender, but we may not necessarily have the same lived experiences as someone who with a different race, ethnicity, gender identity. So being aware that there are other lived experiences and listening to other people and why they think that way. Why does a woman does not live in feminism, who might actually be a feminist without necessarily believing she's a feminist? So yeah, I would say those are the main things.
I love that, especially because there are so many stereotypes around the word itself, being a feminist. And there's it's so deep than what we see in social media, for example. So I encourage everyone here in this forum to learn. And someone said in the chat, sharing knowledge. I think that's crucial as well, being knowledgeable and educate ourselves around this topic and how can we add more value? How can we empower ourselves first? This is our temple. So we need to look into our brain, hearts, mind, spirit, so that we can prepare ourselves to empower others. Okay, I would like to hear the comments from Maria Luz.
Yes, I think it's also important to be aware that there are so many amazing women that we don't even know about sometimes. And so I think it's important to raise our voices and also make them visible, like their achievements and also ours, because I think that is very hard for women and it's very hard for me. So I try to do it as often as I can, but I think talking about women who are great and talking about other women who have done amazing things, it's also a great way to find our new space, because I don't think it's a men versus women thing. I think we're trying to find our space in the current society. So I think that's a good way of doing that as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, Sophia.
Yeah, kind of to go off what Maria Luz said about creating space. I think it's a good way to do that, I guess, would be gentle questioning, because a lot of people, weren't raised as feminists, or, we were all raised in different cultures and different homes. And so like when someone has a gut reaction to something, or they say something that sort of gives you this gut reaction of that's not okay, or even maybe sometimes you think a thought and you think, whoa, where did that come from? And like asking questions in a gentle way, not in a way that's like attacking, but in a way that's like opening the conversation. And I think that helps to create space, because then people start questioning internally, like, why do I think that way? And wait, why did I have that reaction to seeing a woman dressed like that? Or why did I make that comment? Why did they make that comment? And, in a non-judgmental way, just to say like, hey, why do you think that?
Awesome. And I will also like to share a bit of my recent learnings. I'm reading this book. It's called Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. And it's only chapter 2, and it's changing my life in so many levels. It's about negativity, and it describes how we think when we look at others, it's so easy to see the negative in them. But if we train our brains, and with that intention, like Sarah said, and asking ourselves, why did I think that from this person? But do the exercise, okay, for one negative thing, I'm going to mention 10 positive things of that person. So train your brain to look into the positive from everyone, because we all have both negative and positive. But if we focus and intend our thoughts into the positives, that's, I think, if you ask me, that's a road to a better lifestyle. Okay, I think that I would like to ask just one more question, maybe to one person, so that we can give the audience some space to participate as well. I have a really nice question for you all. I would like to hear from any of you, just one person. I would like to hear an example in your career where you enable women empowerment. So if you want to break it down into what was the problem, what did you do to resolve it, and what was the impact you created? Would anyone want to share just one example? Yes, Sarah.
So in the company that I work for as an executive assistant, the executive team is male dominated, and there's just one woman as a VP. And something I see constantly, which happens because I'm working directly with them, is that they tend to speak over her, or things like that happen. And something I do even as the assistant is highlight some of the things she does. Because me being on the receiving end to some of that work that we do together, I get to see that she has insights, that she's always thinking about everything. She has such valuable points. So in those meetings, sometimes I just bring up everything she did, because I'm collecting that info, I'm prepping the decks, I'm prepping the things. So I always make sure to highlight her, because she's absolutely brilliant. And it's very easy for her voice to be like muted or shut down by other people talking over her. So that's something I do constantly. And I don't even like, I just be bold. I'm just being bold and just go ahead and do that.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. And that's so easy to replicate as well. So that's something that I'll definitely start doing much more. Okay, and so the last answer will come from Maria Luz before we can give it to the audience to participate. Yes, Maria Luz.
Yes, I was going to add that I used to work for a woman who was very loud. She was very, like, always expressing her ideas, and this caused many incidents, especially with other executives who were male. So it was, everybody was like, why is she like that? So I always used to say, like, if she was a man, would this be a problem? And it wouldn't, because there were a lot of other men who were like that in the same company, and it wasn't a problem. But for her to be so spoken and loud, it was difficult for other people to be around her. So I was like highlighted, like, but she's a really nice person, and she will defend you to death if something happens to you. So I think it is important also to break these stereotypes that about women, around women in the business place, that are not only bad for them, but for everybody who's different or, doesn't fit into the stereotype.
Awesome. And this will be funny, but and thank you for sharing. And I read a quote yesterday from Beyonce. I'm not bossy, I'm the boss. And I love that because we're working hard to get a seat at that table, and we should celebrate it. So thank you so much for sharing. Now, let's open the door for the audience, and I have a question for you all. I'm gonna post it in the chat, and please answer in the chat, and we'll all read it. The question is, what advice will you give to the next generation of female leaders? I'll post it here. So, what's your advice to the next generation of female leaders? Let's see. Be kind and speak up. Use your voice. Use it. Educate yourself. Love that. We never stop learning, guys. Create space for other women to grow. I like this, please. Believe more in yourself. Work hard, but also take care of your health. It hit me in the cora. Believe in yourself. Follow your intuition. Don't stay quiet, sitting pretty. You have a strong voice, and it deserves to be heard. Be yourself. Don't let nobody let you down. I love that. Listen with curiosity. Oh, this is amazing. I feel like with all of these tips, we can write a book, you guys. I don't know about you. I'm going to be stealing this. Believe in yourself. Thank you. Our own Viva quotes. I love it. Well, thank you guys. To wrap it up, and thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to leave you with one of the Viva main goals, and it is, there is no place to work like Viva. I want to thank you, Viva, for opening up this space where we can share our voices, and we have the assurance that they're being heard. For a special guest in the audience, we invite you also to follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn as Viva Virtual Analyst, and pull the trigger and apply if you're interested. And to close this amazing session, I'll give you a powerful quote. We love doing this. And the quote goes, "Don't ever underestimate the importance you can have, because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own." By Michelle Obama. So let's use our courage and let's be contagious. Thank you.
Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.